And we continue at 106 in the afternoon. Talk Radio 790 KABC, the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wang's in Culver City.
We got an email on the end of the diesel mandate from Jenny. Jenny writes in at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. Hey, guys, we have a mom-and-pop trucking company, small box trucks. Our industry has been in a panic since the EV mandate was announced. We quickly learned that major truck manufacturers were cutting off all small diesel commercial truck production in 2023, and we felt pressured to purchase 3 new trucks to the tune of $500,000. Mandates like these will only hurt small businesses that will absolutely go under if forced to buy $350,000 trucks that don't go very far. Even though the mandate has been lifted, Newsom sucks.
I don't blame him. I would hate to be a small business owner in this climate, in this state. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. It is our pleasure to welcome our next guest to the program. He is a former member of the California Senate and California State Assembly and member of the Kern County Board of Supervisors, Senator Roy Ashburn. Welcome.
John, great to be with you.
Senator, President Trump came into office earlier this week hot. He immediately signed a bunch of executive orders that repealed some of the bad policies left over from the Biden administration. He has been traveling around, most recently at the World Economic Forum, told them that we are not going to cripple our economy and cripple our businesses by abiding by the Paris Climate Accord and other international agreements meant to curb climate change. He is coming in about as strong as you can. One of the other initiatives that he brought along with him was immediately empowering the government to deport criminal aliens. And I don't know if you saw the Bill Maloogian report that aired earlier today on the Fox News channel, where he was traveling around with ICE agents as they were finding these people, bringing them into custody and preparing them for deportation. But there was a guy who was a career criminal who was here from Haiti illegally, and he started cursing the name Donald Trump for the fact that he was about to be deported. And then he said that Joe Biden was great, Barack Obama was great, and they have no right to send him back to Haiti. And I thought to myself, Donald Trump's approval rating is going to go up another 10 points if this is what people are seeing on their TV. Your thoughts?
Well, obviously, the ICE agents are focused on those who have committed crimes, serious, dangerous individuals in the communities. They're acting all over the country. I think it's very wise that they not even disclose their activities as they carry them out. I did hear the report that you mentioned, and, it's one thing to come here illegally, and we sure as heck have a lot of people who have done that. But it's another thing to have a long history of crime. I mean, we're not talking about petty crime. We're talking about the dangerous people, murderers and rapists and people who would commit heinous assaults. These people should not be in our country under any circumstances. And, thank goodness that policy has changed and something's being done.
Out of curiosity, and you served in the legislature with a lot of people who disagree with what's going on right now, what's the argument for keeping someone like that in the country?
I have no idea. I tried, John, to figure out what the benefit was from a political standpoint to the Democrat Party, basically, because this was their policy, to just have an endless string of individuals flowing into the country, no vetting, national security concerns, terrorist concerns, drug dealing concerns, violent crime concerns. Just ignore them. I have no idea what the political upside of such a policy is. What I do know is that the public all across the United States of America had enough. And I think it was a big part of what drove the very, very big victory for Donald J. Trump.
The closest I can come to, just trying to come up with an argument in my head, is that those people, and by those people I mean the left, racialize everything. They see a racial angle in every story, regardless of what the story is. If you and I were having a discussion about farm futures, they would find a way to bring a racial angle into it. And I think in their mind, a lot of people who are here illegally are black and brown. So therefore, if you enforce the law, you will disproportionately impact black and brown people, and therefore it's racist. So you have an obligation to look the other way, which is basically what they think about crime too. If crime was not being committed largely by people who they regard as protected classes, I think they would have a different attitude about it. I think that their attitude about race disables their ability to think coherently about how to deal with real-world problems like illegal immigration and crime.
Except they took a totally different view about Asian individuals. And so I'm going to suggest another answer, and that is just pure political power based on population, that to the extent that you have people in states, in communities that are then counted in the census, that goes directly to the distribution of representatives between the states. It also goes into a future voting bloc, because we know that right alongside the open borders approach has been, well, let non-citizens vote in our elections. Well, what's the purpose of that? The purpose is to perpetuate political power. And I really believe that that is most of the impetus behind the open borders approach, and the criminal aspect of it. The people who came in, who, as Donald Trump would say, from mental institutions or from prisons and jails that were released directly into the United States on purpose by foreign countries. That's just collateral. I mean, I really believe that's an element.
What do you think is going to happen politically the first time the federal government butts heads with a big blue city? And I suspect it'll probably happen in Chicago, where they want to go into that city and they want to find someone in one of the jails or someone who they suspect is in that city somewhere, and they're going to want to deport them. And the mayor or the police chief or some official from that particular jurisdiction is going to stand up and say, we're not letting the feds in here and allowing them to enforce immigration law. And it's going to become a game of chicken. Who do you think is going to win that game of chicken?
Tom Homan. I mean, Donald J. Trump is tough, but Tom Homan is a guy I sure wouldn't want to have to deal with. This guy is he's just tougher than nails. And he's just unequivocal in the mission that he's been given. He has the background, experience, and knowledge to carry it out. I think, for weeks before the inauguration, he made it very clear. If you're a mayor, if you're a local official or chief of police or sheriff, and you defy this deportation and the decriminalization or the removal of criminals from the communities, you're going to be arrested. And I sure wouldn't put it past him, and that may well happen. But I see some of these blue, local government officials. Yeah, their rhetoric is sure a little different today than it was even a few days ago. You see them kind of backpedaling a little bit, and they may not want to have that that occur in their jurisdiction.
Well, if you're going to have the fight over immigration, having the fight over someone who's not only here illegally, but is a career criminal, someone like this guy from Haiti who's been breaking the law ever since he got here, and you're going to act like this guy is the kid that fell in the well, and that's the mountain that you're going to die on?
Pretty hard to justify. I mean, the facts of and the circumstances surrounding these individuals, especially those who are being targeted right now. There's just no defense. That is just not an argument that you want to have. The public's just not going to buy it. I mean, we know what the results of the election were. Even in states like California, the vote was different than it had been in the past. Yes, the winner was Kamala in the number of votes and the carrying of the state, but the percentage was not what it had been. There was definite movement in every state toward Donald Trump and the philosophy that he's been espousing.
We're speaking with Senator Roy Ashburn. Senator, as I mentioned in the open, Donald Trump took it right to the globalists over at the World Economic Forum on the Paris Climate Accord. He took it right to Grampy Joe and Kamala Harris and Barack Obama and George W. Bush at the inauguration speech, sitting just a few feet away from where he was speaking. Coming up later this week, he's coming to California, and he's going to meet with Gavin Newsom, who initially blamed Donald Trump for the fires here in California. Donald Trump, of course, is not one to sit there and take it. He fired right back. And it's a subject that he is interested in and fluent in. He is a landowner here in California. He has a golf course in Palos Verdes. I think he has a home in Los Angeles. He certainly was close with Devin Nunes, who was a member of Congress from California's Central Valley. He talks about our water problems, our fire problems quite a bit, including before our fires, most recent round of fires, even started. My guess is if he comes here and meets with Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass, this is not going to be one of these kiss-ass sessions where it's an Oscar speech and he thanks everyone for their leadership. I think he's going to take it right to their face. What should we expect from that meeting between Donald Trump and our elected officials here in California?
Well, the way you built up to it is, I think, what's going to take place. I don't think Trump, for 1 second, is going to be in the mood to just be congratulating people on a job well done. He's going to be right on point with the horrible failure of leadership here that isn't new. The water problem in California is decades old. And the same problem that was identified long ago with this state dumping out into the Pacific Ocean precious, pure water that's needed for homes, for people, for fire protection, and for farming. That issue is just clear as can be. That the state for decades has prioritized an endangered species, or what is alleged to be an endangered species, over the interests of human beings. And we saw it in the most graphic, horrifying detail in the fires in Los Angeles that are continuing today with the new fires. In addition to what's been pointed to for years in the forest practices, the management of lands, that for decades, forever, it was good policy to rake the underbrush, to clean it out, to have control burns when it was safe to do so that we didn't have catastrophic events. But again, the environmentalists have pushed policies that prevented that. And so, I mean, Gavin Newsom owns, and does Karen Bass, because she was, after all, a member of the California legislature. She was Speaker of the State Assembly. She had every opportunity with a majority party to reverse the policies that I just described and did not do it. And so they own this. And I hope Trump does go face-to-face, toe-to-toe with both of them.
One of the big political disputes going on right now is whether or not federal dollars coming into California to help with the fires will have strings attached. And I can't for the life of me figure out why this is such an issue for debate, because I can't think of virtually any circumstances where dollars come from Washington to the state without strings attached. Or for that matter, when you were in Sacramento, I would assume that if a local water district came to you and asked for something, or a local school district or park or whatever, there is no way Sacramento would just give them a blank check without certain parameters attached to that check.
No, that's exactly right. And, wouldn't it be refreshing if the federal help that comes in for fire victims has strings attached that reverse these horrible policies that we just talked about? California has got to change its ways. I mean, the state is going bankrupt. Crime is still completely out of control. The cost of living and lack of affordable housing, and now the natural disasters or the man-made disasters of fire and other calamities, these are real, and we're at the breaking point. And I just hope that real people, decide to take some action here, that when they get to the ballot box, these things are all reversible. And I think it'd be terrific to have requirements attached to any help that comes, because after all, these will be federal dollars that are being paid by people from all across the United States of America, and they should not be subsidizing nonsense and craziness in California.
Well, especially if they have to step in and write the check to, I don't know, bail out the FAIR plan or to help rebuild these homes or rebuild the infrastructure. Right. The argument for something in California on the helmet requirement for motorcyclists is, well, if you get involved in an accident and you need very expensive medical care, we have to pay for it. And if we have to pay the bill, then we make the rules. Well, okay, if our reckless policies lead to damage and destruction from these fires that would otherwise be avoided had we gone down a different road, and the federal government's going to be on the hook for it, well, then I think they have every right in the world to come here and say, all right, you have money in your water bond for reservoirs, you need to fast track them, you need to build them. You are not trapping water from big rainstorms and snowstorms in the Sierras like we had 2 years ago in Northern California. All right, you want federal money? You better start trapping and storing that water because you clearly need it to fight fires like the ones you just lived through. If Donald Trump came in here and did something like that when he came with the checkbook to help us out, he would be doing Gavin Newsom a favor even if he doesn't know it.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, unfortunately, those who are in power today don't seem to be capable of managing, even under good circumstances, much less catastrophes like what has just occurred and is ongoing in Los Angeles area. It's a stark example. And Gavin Newsom, it's beyond description. And the disconnect with the reality of what took place and any sense of responsibility for it.
Do you think Karen Bass, the mayor of LA, survives this?
I don't know. I really don't. I thought Rick Caruso was going to be elected mayor. I was surprised when he was not. Those minutes when she stepped off the plane from Africa and it looked like she was shell-shocked and incapable of expressing a thought, I think that image may last forever.
Former California Senator Roy Ashburn. Senator Ashburn, thank you so much for joining us. Always a pleasure.
John, always a pleasure. Thank you.
If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you're monitoring the mailbag.
We put out the call for anyone to email us if they listen to this show from outside of the Los Angeles listening area. How'd you discover us? Why do you listen? I'm very curious. We had a guy that emailed the other day from Australia, and it was fascinating. Nancy writes in at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com why I listen to the John Phillips Show. 4 years ago, I moved out of SoCal because I couldn't afford to live there anymore and now live in Mississippi. It's very different. I listen to your show every day because what goes on in California affects the whole country. So I feel like staying in touch with events in California helps me stay informed and also helps me when I have California withdrawals. I get a mix of local and national news. Your coverage of the news and subsequent breakdowns is pretty spot on. John Phillips gives excellent commentary, and you have guests that add relevant information to the mix. And y'all are pretty dang funny. It helps me deal with not living there anymore. That's great, Nancy. We're so glad you're listening all the way in Mississippi.
I love it. They have great food down there. All right. If you want to go back and listen to a past edition of the show, maybe one from when you used to live here in California, if you're listening from another state, Randy, that's easy to do.
All you got to do is go to KABC.com, click on podcasts, go to the Apple Podcast app, iHeart, Spotify, search for The John Phillips Show, hit subscribe. You can download all the episodes. You can do a Google on the YouTube or get that handy-dandy KABC app. Search KABC AM in the Apple App Store or the Android Store. It's the easiest way to listen live to this radio station. Download all the podcasts. Podcasts of this version of The John Phillips Show go back about 5 years. So if you want to go back that far, there's going to be a lot of this lady.
Next slide.
And we're moving down the dial in the San Francisco Bay.
The Fix California Hour, we do a special version of it on KSFO at 11 o'clock at night in the Bay Area. KSFO is moved to AM 810, a bigger, stronger signal that you can hear everywhere in Northern California, including Sacramento, so you know Gavin's listening. And at night, when other radio stations power down, that signal gets stronger, so you can hear it in neighboring states like Nevada and Utah and Idaho and Arizona and Oregon. You can hear it in Canada, and more importantly, you can hear it crystal clear in Southern California. So set a preset next to 790 for 810, and if it's 11 o'clock at night, listen to the Fix California Hour.
800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. Well, now that former Oakland Mayor Sheng Tao is facing federal charges, times in Oakland, they are a-changin'. And because Oakland will have a new mayor very soon, some of the policies that were adopted by Sheng Tao and her administration may be going the way of the dodo, too, including their policy on high-speed pursuits.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, here's what's interesting. You can't even blame Shangy for this one because this is something that was implemented by the Oakland Police Commission in 2014, where they banned their police officers from chasing suspects unless they knew they had a gun or did something incredibly violent. So any kind of burglary, any kind of robbery, any kind of smash and grab, any kind of street takeover, Oakland police cannot catch the criminals. It's part of why Gavin needed to bring the CHP in, because the CHP don't operate under those restrictions and they can actually chase the criminals. At the beginning of the year, we played you the press conference where Gavin Newsom went off on Oakland for not changing this policy that is not in line with the rest of the state of California. And back in July, he told the police commission, you got to change this policy or I'm not going to bring back the CHP. And then they didn't change the policy, and he brought back the CHP. And then in December, he said the same thing, and they still haven't changed the policy. But now they're starting to debate the policy that Gavin Newsom is specifically asking Oakland to get rid of.
It's the damnedest thing. You tell all the criminals that you won't chase after them, and guess what? You say stop, and they run.
It's wild, wild west out here.
For more, here's a report from Cron 4.
A rally in Oakland tonight calling for police to chase criminals regardless of the nature of the crime.
Chase the crooks! Chase the crooks!
Several business owners voicing their support for the change, while the Oakland Police Commission discussed the pursuit policy that's been in effect since 2014.
These commissions that are made up of appointed special interests, like the one in the probation commission that has handicapped those employees from being able to do their jobs. Now they're getting beat up by juvenile inmates. They're designed to destroy the institution they're supposed to oversee.
You hear police commission and you think, okay, well, that's a commission full of people who are concerned with public safety. Wrong. Those are people who are there with the mandate to destroy public safety.
Well, the Oakland Police Commission discussed the pursuit policy that's been in effect since 2014.
If you remember, in her last year in office, San Francisco Mayor London Breed had this exact same fight because the San Francisco Police Commission, which is made up of people she appointed, said San Francisco police can't chase suspects. So she had to get a ballot measure to override them. And now in San Francisco, they could chase suspects till they get to Oakland, and then they can't chase anybody.
Well, the Oakland Police Commission discussed the pursuit policy that's been in effect since 2014. Ground 4's Lindsay Ford joins us live in Oakland tonight with more from both sides of the argument. Lindsay?
This also shows whoever becomes mayor, there's a lot of mess to unravel.
Oh, that's a job you do not want.
Shang did a lot of destruction, but you cannot wholly blame Oakland on Shangy.
Oh, no, they were dysfunctional long before her.
Absolutely, absolutely.
She's just the funniest part of it.
Yeah, the Oakland Police Commission held a town hall here tonight at the East Bay Church of Religious Science. And at the head of the town hall, several Oakland business owners saying that the current pursuit is failing them.
And no chase. And no chase.
They're screaming, "End, no chase."
But they're doing it through the clown's nose at Jack in the Box.
And no chase. And no chase.
A rally Wednesday in Oakland's Temescal neighborhood calling for police officers to pursue...
We can fade it out now. It's very distorted.
Calling for police officers to pursue anyone who commits a crime, regardless of the nature of the crime. Oakland business owner Ali Albasari was among those demanding change.
Oakland citizen has been affected by this no-chase policy because of all these businesses are closing down.
Others like Kathy Leonard.
That sounds like a man who's been held up at gunpoint more than one time.
Or a man that had a Kia crash into his business a time or two. Imagine that, and this is true. A Kia crashes into a convenience store to steal a whole bunch of cigarettes. Even if a police officer from OPD witnesses it right in front of him, he cannot chase them.
Could you imagine how loud that must be to have a Kia come through your wall?
It happens so often in Oakland. At this point, the residents consider it like a wave machine.
Others like Kathy Leonard believe the policy should remain as is.
There is a chase policy. Stop being untruthful.
The policy is don't chase.
Yeah, I'll tell you, that sounds like a real desperate woman to me who has a bunch of boyfriends who are jailbirds.
And look, there is a legitimate argument of that sometimes these chases get very dangerous. We even have that down here in Southern California. And then sometimes the drivers, apparently, if you drive so dangerously, the cops back off and they go into tracking mode, like that one the other day with a whole bunch of dirt bikes that were taken over the freeway. But the answer of no chasing at all emboldens the criminals to commit more criminal acts because they literally get away with it.
You can't tell them that you're not going to chase after them because the minute you do that, they know that crime is okay and tolerated in your community.
Oakland's current policy bans officers from chasing after suspects unless the suspect has a gun or is accused of a violent crime. And
apparently ramming a Kia into a cigarette shop is not violent.
I love how they talk about that like it's some kind of misdemeanor. You do realize that if someone is anywhere near that wall that you just run the car through, you're going to kill them.
And why would you need a gun in Oakland when you can use a car?
A car could be a deadly weapon.
Like sexual assault or murder. Albasari says Oakland PD don't protect small business owners like himself. He says throughout his 40 years of being a business owner here, he's been robbed and had little to no help from OPD.
We've been seeing so many...
Told ya.
We've been seeing so many businesses been broken into. We see it every single day. They get robbed. Police will come in. The robbers are there or the criminals are there. They don't chase them. We ask the police, how come you're not chasing them? They say we have a policy that we cannot chase criminals. We cannot chase anybody.
And what do you think that does for morale? If you're choosing what department you want to work with, I got to imagine you don't want to work in the department that leaves you defenseless and you can't do your actual job.
No, you take the money and you work in a wealthy suburb.
Within the city of Oakland.
Another factor that was up for a discussion at the town hall was the current...
Right next to Oakland is that town Dublin. I bet their police staffing is full.
Screw Dublin. I'd go work for Danville.
Another factor that was up for a discussion at the town hall was the current 50 miles per hour cap in cases of commercial burglaries. Many of the business owners at the rally say criminals know this rule and increase their speed on purpose to get away with crimes.
Okay, so hold on. Okay, it just got worse, Johnny. If there is a chase going on, in one of the rare instances where OPD gets the authority to chase a suspect, they can't go faster than 50.
They can't go faster than 50. I've seen people go that fast at the drive-thru.
The criminal can go as fast as they want. OPD cannot go over 50 miles an hour. How long do you think that chase lasts?
Well, I've watched a lot of Dukes of Hazzard in my time, and even Roscoe went above 50.
Which Leonard currently supports.
So I am concerned that innocent people will be either grievously harmed or killed if the police decide to extend this pursuit policy.
How about all the victims of the crime waves and the street takeovers because the cops cannot pursue people?
I'm telling you, that woman has a boyfriend who's a criminal.
It feels like the city is in a real crisis.
According to Oakland police, there are 19 factors that officers consider before a pursuit, some of which are speed, direct.
By the time you get through the checklist, the criminal's gone.
They're just trying to figure out, okay, we want the criminal to get away. How do we do it? Okay, we'll ban chases unless the person has a gun. But if they have a gun, you can't go faster than 50 miles an hour.
These commissions, their whole purpose is to dismantle the system from the inside. And they have a lot of unchecked power, and these are not elected officials.
And they're doing a pretty good job of it.
Some of which are speed, direction of travel, and weather conditions.
Information like that may cause the officer to disengage in the pursuit themselves or terminate the pursuit, or the supervising sergeant may cancel the pursuit. Also, any supervisor.
Looks like it's going to rain. Stop chasing that guy. I don't care how many cigarettes he stole.
Also, any supervisor, in theory, could cancel that pursuit. Any lieutenant or any commander that was listening to the radio at that time.
You know, I know people give Shang a lot of crap for her mayorship over the last 2 years, but there was one thing that she said early on that is so true about the city of Oakland.
The bureaucracy is real.
Dead on. Dead on.
And Oakland police didn't make a decision tonight on whether or not they're going to make any future changes to their current pursuit policy. In Oakland, Lindsay Ford, back to you.
By the way, this also shows how weak Gavin is, because Gavin has been demanding that Oakland change this policy since last July, and they're only now starting to debate it.
Here's what's funny about him, and this is a big difference between his leadership style and Trump's. Trump is willing to lean on people when he wants them to do something. You're in the Senate and you're thinking about voting against one of his nominees, fine, but there's a price you're going to pay for that. And you know it, and he tells you about it. Gavin wanted the LA County Board of Supervisors to get rid of Barbara Ferrer a long time ago. I know this. Many people have told me. But he's passive-aggressive about it in private. He's not putting any public pressure on these people to do that. So guess what? They keep her, and he doesn't get what he wants. He wanted Sheng Tao and the city of Oakland to change this policy on pursuits, police pursuits. I'm sure he lobbied them in private, and he certainly let people know that that's what his preference was. But he didn't lean on them. If you want people to do what you want them to do, you just can't throw a coin in a fountain and make a wish. You have to tell them, and you have to pressure them, and you have to twist arms, and sometimes you have to break them. And that's not what he's doing. So, guess what? The result is the state's a mess on his watch. And usually, due north for him is whatever the wrong decision is. But every once in a while, he does have the proper political instincts where he knows that Barbara Ferrer is bad news. He knows that this anti-police pursuit policy is bad news. But if you just complain about it without doing anything, then what does it matter? And that's Gavin Newsom in a nutshell. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you're monitoring the mailbag.
We put out the call for anyone to email us if they listen outside of the Southern California listening area. We'd love to know how you discovered us and why you're listening. Noelle writes in, and she says, I'm listening from American Canyon, California, right next to Vallejo. Our target is on fire.
Our target was set on fire.
Love the show. I started listening to you after I discovered you on KSFO. Love the show. Funny and informative. I downloaded the app and also listened to you in my Tesla. My wife asked me what I'm listening to. I say the funny news. You guys are funny. Keep up the good work.
All right. Well, thank you for listening, and thank you for the email.
The funny news.